Hi guys! So glad you could join me. This is part 4 of my series on making summer clothes, and today we are going to start on making some shorts. And we can make a few little adjustments, but mainly we're going to start with the pattern that we made in the part 1 video. Okay, so if you haven't seen that video, you might want to go back and watch it, because that is how we start with the original pattern, and then I'm going to show you how the short pattern differs from that original one. So let's get started. So the red pattern paper is my original straight leg pants pattern that we did in part 1, and this is the pattern that I cut for the shorts. Okay, this is the back panel, and you can see I've actually made it a bit smaller, okay, because I don't need quite as much fabric around the legs with shorts. I also cut in the center seam just a bit so they won't be quite as baggy. They'll be a little bit of a more of a snug fit. And I also don't go up quite as high in the back. And then for the front panel, you can see that I narrowed it a bit, again for the same reason, don't need quite as much fabric. I also noticed that with my pants, I could use just a little bit more of a snug fit in the crotch area. There was a little too much fabric there, so I went ahead and cut that in for my shorts pattern. Okay, and then the pocket is also going to be different. This is the pocket that we used in the part 3 video. It's kind of an invisible pocket, you don't really see it. This is going to be visible, but it's quite a bit easier to do. So if you like this pocket style, put this on the pants that we've done, and that'll work great. This was a little challenging, and I think I personally prefer this pocket. And you can round the edges also, but just for simplicity, for our first pair of shorts, I'm just going to go ahead. It's pretty much a rectangle with this part cut out, because this is where the hand goes in. I've cut my fabric. This is a front panel. This is the front left panel, and it has the pocket already on there. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press this part where the hand goes in. I'm going to just press this back and do a straight stitch right here before I attach it to the panel. Here's my straight stitch after it's been pressed and stitched. Now this fabric is going to fray, so I went ahead and finished the edges that will be on the inside of the pocket. If your fabric isn't going to fray, you don't have to bother with that. That's just a personal preference. But if it is going to fray, you're going to want to finish those edges before you move on to the next step. What I'm going to do next is take my front panels, and I'm going to press and pin the pocket onto the panel. About like here. You kind of just choose where you want it, but this is going to be about where my waistband is up here, so I don't want to go too far into there. Okay, so I'm going to trim the extra off my finished seams, and then turn them in like this, press it, and pin it. I went ahead and stitched them together. If you need instructions step by step on how to do that, I did that in part 1 video, had step-by-step instructions. And it's just attaching the front and the back leg panels together, and then attaching them together at the center seam. And then I finished the top edge, and what I did is on the inside, the wrong side of the fabric, I added a fabric stabilizer or interfacing. Okay, it just has a shiny side that you press down and you iron it, and then it sticks onto the fabric. And what that does is that makes it very stiff, because I'm going to have to do a buttonhole here for the drawstring to come through, and otherwise the fabric can sometimes get caught in your machine and it doesn't come out looking very clean. But when I use this stabilizer, it really helps with that process. So the next thing I'm going to do is put this in my machine and make 2 buttonholes. I'm doing it about 1 inch from my center seam on both sides. You don't want to go out too far because then when you put the shorts on and you pull the drawstring, you have quite a bit of bunching here. So you don't want too much space there. I would say, actually, yeah, it's more like an inch apart from each other, more like a ½ inch from the center seam, I would say. Now, I must warn you in advance, I'm really bad at buttonholes, and that is why I typically do not do a drawstring. I will do elastic any day over a drawstring, simply so I don't have to do the buttonholes. But for educational purposes here, we will give it a shot. So I have this on, my machine is set on a pretty wide zigzag, and then on my length of stitch, it's down like below 1. Some machines have a buttonhole setting, and mine does, but I find that it just causes more frustration to me. So I just do the zigzag stitch. Okay, make sure I'm in the right spot. And I just go back and forth, so it's really thick across the fabric. Okay, so I did the one side. See that? And now I'm going to go ahead and do the next side, and then I'll do this part and this part. I do them separately. I find that I have less screw-ups that way. And I just scooch it over enough to where I have room to cut a hole for the drawstring. Okay, now the horizontal ones. Okay, so there is my first buttonhole. Now obviously, if I was making a buttonhole for an actual button, it would not be so big and square. I would just have a little slit there. But since it's for a drawstring, I can allow a little more space. So once I have that on there, that's the stabilizer under there, then I just fold it in half like that and snip it with the scissors so I can get it in there, and then just kind of carefully cut out anything that I don't want to be there. Now I've already made my drawstring. The step-by-step instructions for the drawstring are in the part 3 video, if you need to go back and watch that. But when I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and just straight stitch this over, just like as if I was using elastic, except I don't have to leave an opening because I have the buttonholes. Just going to put a safety pin on the end of my drawstring. Something that helps with the drawstrings, I feel like it just gives it a cleaner look, is after you turn it right side out and press it, I run another straight stitch on the outside of it so that it just kind of keeps it nice and flat. I'm going to go in one of my little holes here and push it through until it comes out the other side. So then typically what I do is I tie a knot in the very end of each end of the drawstring, and then I trim off the extra. You can tuck it in and sew it together, but I find I'm too lazy to do that. So I just tie it. And I think that looks fine. Okay. So we'll just tie these together here. There. So this is my first completed pair of shorts. So I will try those on and show you guys a picture. Well, they fit, and I don't think I would make any major changes to the pattern except to avoid the buttonholes. I would do elastic just to make it easier for myself. But that's it for part 4, and part 5 we're going to start doing some tops. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.